You know that one historical fact you'd love to share at parties to sound smart? It's probably complete, unadulterated garbage. Today, we're not just correcting history, we're taking a sledgehammer to it. We're detonating 15 of the most persistent lies ever disguised as historical truth. Prepare for a full-scale demolition of your reality. Number 1. Napoleon's height, the short king myth. Napoleon Bonaparte, the original short king, right? The tiny tyrant with a massive ego who was basically compensating for everything? Well, it turns out history's most famous short joke is a complete lie. The man was about 5'7", which was actually a bit taller than the average French guy at the time. So what gives? Simple. It was arguably the most successful smear campaign in history, courtesy of the British. Their newspapers relentlessly drew him as a pint-sized rage monster to make him seem less threatening. That, plus a classic mix-up between the French inch and the slightly shorter British inch, sealed his fate as history's most famous short guy. He wasn't a tiny terror, he was just the victim of a brutal meme war and bad unit conversion. Number 2. Christmas Day, the pagan takeover. So, about Christmas on December 25th, yeah, that date was basically pulled out of a hat. The Bible is completely silent on when Jesus was born, and the details it does give point more towards a spring birth. So why are we all exchanging gifts in the dead of winter? Because the early church pulled off a genius corporate takeover. The Romans already had a wildly popular week-long pagan festival called Saturnalia, a bender of feasting, drinking, and chaos that conveniently ended around December 25th. Instead of trying to cancel the empire's favorite party, the church just went with the flow and slapped a major holy day right on top of it. It was a brilliant, if you can't beat 'em, rebrand 'em strategy. Number 4. The pyramids built by slaves myth. The Great Pyramids were built by armies of miserable slaves being whipped under the desert sun. It's the story we all know, and it's completely, utterly wrong. So, who actually built them? Paid, skilled, and surprisingly well cared for laborers. Archaeologists have found their purpose-built villages, and let me tell you, these guys had it good. Their graves show they received proper burials, and their skeletons reveal access to top-notch medical care. And the food they were paid in? Bread, meat, and get this, beer. Forget brutal slavery. This was more like the world's most epic construction gig with a killer benefits package and a tomb with a view. Number 5. Vikings, the horned helmet hoax. Close your eyes. Picture a Viking. Giant, filthy, wild beard, horned helmet, right? Okay, now throw that entire image directly in the trash. That iconic horned helmet is about as historically accurate as a caveman riding a T-Rex. It was literally invented in the 1800s by a costume designer for an opera because he thought it looked cool. And the whole filthy barbarian thing? Please, Vikings were famously obsessed with personal grooming. We found tons of their combs, tweezers, and razors. English writers from that time actually complained that the Vikings were too clean, bathing weekly and meticulously grooming their hair, which made them dangerously popular with the local Anglo-Saxon women. Number 6. Cleopatra, not Egyptian. Cleopatra, the ultimate queen of Egypt, the face of a North African empire, was not actually Egyptian, not even a little bit. In fact, she was as Greek as baklava and smashing plates at a wedding. She was a descendant of Ptolemy, one of Alexander the Great's generals, who took over Egypt centuries before she was born. Her entire family for 300 years basically acted like Greek snobs on a long vacation. Cleopatra was a political genius because she was the first and only one in her dynasty to actually learn the Egyptian language. It was a brilliant PR move, but by blood, she was 100% Greek. Number 7. The Great Chicago Fire, the Cow Conspiracy. A single clumsy cow belonging to Mrs. O'Leary kicked over a lantern and burned down the entire city of Chicago. It's a great story, isn't it? Simple, memorable, and it blames an animal. Too bad it was a malicious lie cooked up by a journalist who later admitted he just invented it because it made for a better story. The O'Learys were poor Irish immigrants, making them the perfect scapegoats. The truth is, nobody knows what started the Great Chicago Fire.
The city was a tinderbox of wooden buildings during a drought. A stray cigar butt could have done it. Mrs. O'Leary was cleared of all blame, but her poor cow remains history's most unfairly slandered farm animal.
Number 8. Medieval women, the damsel myth. The idea that all medieval women were just helpless damsels locked in towers waiting for a knight is a fairy tale myth that needs to die. Yes, it was a patriarchal world, but calling all women powerless is just lazy history. Depending on her class, a woman could be a total boss. Noble women ran massive estates, commanded castles, and played politics like pros while their husbands were away. In towns, women were master brewers, weavers, and merchants who ran their own businesses. And widows could inherit everything, becoming some of the most independent and economically powerful people around. It wasn't a feminist utopia, but it was far from the boring, one-dimensional prison our storybooks make it out to be. Number 9. Spartans, the baby cliff lie. Ah, the Spartans, the most hardcore society in history. So of course they had a policy of tossing imperfect babies off a cliff. It's the ultimate symbol of their brutal, no-nonsense culture. There's just one tiny problem. They almost certainly didn't do it. This entire story comes from writers like Plutarch, who lived centuries after Sparta's glory days and was basically writing sensationalist history fan fiction. When archaeologists actually excavated the supposed chasm of death, they didn't find piles of baby bones. They found the remains of adult men, likely criminals or prisoners of war. Believing this myth is like a future historian writing about our era based solely on watching old episodes of Jackass. Number 10. The Wild West, the High Noon Duel. High noon, a dusty main street. Two stoic gunslingers, hands hovering over their Colts, ready for a lightning-fast draw. It's the single most iconic scene of the American Wild West, and it's almost pure fantasy. Real gunfights on the frontier were clumsy, chaotic, and often very stupid affairs. Forget the honorable stare-down. The reality was more like two drunk guys fumbling with their pistols behind a saloon until one of them got shot in the back by the other guy's friend. And the legendary hero sheriffs who cleaned up towns with their dueling skills, most were just local lawmen whose primary job was breaking up fistfights and arresting people for being drunk in public, not being Clint Eastwood. Number 12. Isaac Newton and the light bulb moment. The story of Isaac Newton and the apple is so simple and perfect. He's just chilling under a tree, an apple bonks him on the head, and bam, a fully formed theory of universal gravitation downloads directly into his brain. It's a lovely story that makes genius seem so accessible, and that's exactly why it's a myth. Newton himself said he was inspired by seeing an apple fall from a tree, which merely got him thinking about the problem. The apple didn't provide the answer. It just provided the question. The actual discovery involved years of brain-meltingly complex mathematics and physics, not a piece of fruit acting as a divine slap to the head. Genius is less about getting hit by fruit and more about decades of hard work. Number 13. Life expectancy, the 30-year death clock. Everyone knows that in the Middle Ages you were lucky if you lived to the ripe old age of 30, right? Life was nasty, brutish, and ridiculously short. Well, this is a classic case of statistics lying to you. That average life expectancy of 30 to 35 years is so low because it includes the absolutely horrific rates of infant and child mortality. A stomach bug or a fever that we'd crush with modern medicine was a death sentence for a medieval kid. But here's the twist. If you managed to survive the gauntlet of childhood and made it to your early 20s, your chances of living to 60 or even 70 were actually surprisingly good. That average wasn't a death clock hanging over every 29-year-old. It was just really, really bad news for babies. Number 14. Pirates, the walk the plank fallacy. Walk the plank, you scurvy dog. It's the ultimate pirate threat, a terrifying march to doom. It's in every pirate movie, book, and theme park ride, and it's almost pure fantasy. Real gunfights on the frontier were clumsy, chaotic, and often very stupid affairs. Forget the honorable stare-down. The reality was more like two drunk guys fumbling with their pistols behind a saloon until one of them got shot in the back by the other guy's friend.
And the legendary hero sheriffs who cleaned up towns with their dueling skills? Most were just local lawmen whose primary job was breaking up fistfights and arresting people for being drunk in public, not being Clint Eastwood. Number 15. White House, the fire cover-up myth. Why is the White House white? The most popular story is a tale of epic bastard American defiance. The British burned it in 1812, so we painted it white to cover the scorch marks, like a middle finger made of paint. It's a fantastic story. It's also completely wrong. The truth is painfully boring. It was always white. From the moment construction started in 1792, they used a lime-based whitewash to protect the sandstone from the weather. People were already calling it the White House years before the British even showed up with their matches. The paint job after the war wasn't a patriotic cover-up. It was just regular, boring home maintenance. All right, the video's over. Now for the historical confession booth. Go down to the comments and admit it. Which one of these lies have you passionately argued about, defending it to the death with friends or family, only to realize now you were spectacularly wrong? Consider yourselves officially rescued from the swamp of fake history. Your payment is a like. Subscribing is your insurance policy for the future. You know what to do.